Assalamualaikum. I am Tegma and you are watching your own channel Audiovisual Books. Please like and subscribe to be updated daily. Let's start today's opinion. Leadership Matters by Zahid Hussain. So we are back to a smart lockdown after a month of mayhem that has been a relentless rise in the number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the country. There may be some signs of panic in the corridors of power, with the latest projection crossing 1 million cases in the next few weeks, and yet there is no coherent strategy to deal with the crisis. While the pandemic stares us in the face, the leadership continues to sow confusion with its flip flops. There is still no sense of seriousness, though the daily death toll is now over 100. Pakistan is now among the top 10 countries reporting the highest number of new daily cases of COVID 19. At this rate, the death toll could be in the thousands by the time the disease reaches its peak in mid August. With large numbers of medical staff down with the virus, the country's health system has already collapsed, with hospitals turning away an ever increasing number of patients. The federal government's reckless decision to reopen during the month of Ramzan, ignoring the warning by local and international health experts, has created a catastrophic situation. While no section of society is safe from the ramping virus, it is the poor and working classes that have been most affected by the infection. In a rare move, the World Health Organization has urged Pakistan to return to lockdown, but the federal government has dismissed the warning, saying the country could not afford a total shutdown. The Prime Minister continues to harp on this old anti lockdown mantra. Mixed messaging and downplaying the problem has confused the public. Intriguingly, 2 days after he had rejected any move to reimpose the lockdown, the National Coordination and Operations Center ordered what it describes as a smart lockdown, sealing areas in 20 major countries and towns across the country. One wonders who made the decision. It seems to be a repeat of the unilateral decisions taken by the provincial governments to shut down all business, ignoring the Prime Minister's advice against it in March. He has repeatedly denounced the move and even tried to undermine the efforts of Sindh government to restrict movement and the congregations. He was finally able to prevail and ordered the removal of all restrictions and reopened the economy prematurely. That wiped out success in mitigating and the spread of the disease during the brief lockdown. We are now in a much worse situation than we were a month ago, as provincial administrations now move to impose restrictions in major hotspots. It may not be as effective as a complete lockdown for some period of time that health experts and the WHO has also asking for, but it is still better than the free for all approach witnessed for the past 1 month. Given Imran Khan's skepticism regarding the issue of lockdown, one is not sure how effective even the few restrictions will be. The problem is that he and his followers genuinely believe that his government's handling of the pandemic was an example for the world to emulate. Sadly, the government's chaotic policy could neither save lives nor the economy. Such a Trumpian style of self glorification gives little hope for rectifying mistakes. The Prime Minister has his own ingenious idea of fighting the disease with his tiger force. The elusive million strong volunteer force is yet to be seen in action, though there has been a claim of its being very effective in parts of the country. Such such gimmickry cannot be substitute cannot be a substitute for a comprehensive policy to deal with the serious public health and economic crisis. Dealing with a global pandemic has produced stories of international success as well failures. Leaders who have taken timely and tough decisions have been able to mitigate the damage and have pulled out their countries from the crisis much faster. It is nothing to do with the size, population, and the wealth of a nation. It is leadership and one's capability and to think clearly in times of crisis that matters. Surely, decisions are not easy to make, but that is what leadership is all about. Women have proved to be tougher and more decisive leaders. Most of the success stories are of countries ruled by leaders who have been able to unite the country and mobilize the masses. Unfortunately, our leadership has failed on all counts. Mixed messaging and downplaying the problem have confused the public. As a result, people have never taken the infection seriously. The government was completely absent when it came to the enforcement of restrictions. It is unfair now to put all the blame for the spread of the infection on the people for not observing SOPs which have never been properly defined. No state can leave the enforcement of the law to the direction of the general public. Instead of uniting the country in such challenging times, the PTI government has done everything to divide and polarize it. The selective application of anti corruption laws has exposed the government to the allegation of the political witch hunt. The government's so called drive against graft is, in fact, a cover for its incompetence. The pandemic is also being used by the PTI to cover up its failure to improve governance. The economy is in a shambles, and for the first time in 68 years, it has shown negative growth. It is convenient for the government to entirely blame the pandemic and the less than 2 months long partial lockdown for a contraction, but it is not based on facts. There is still time for the government to salvage the situation and take the battle against the pandemic more seriously. The Prime Minister has to change his flawed approach and show some leadership and clarity in policy. The government has to impose a strict lockdown for at least several weeks in order to reduce the number of infected people to a small fraction of current numbers. Saving lives is more important. That would also help a faster revival of the economy. The Prime Minister must not make it a matter of ego. He needs to follow the example of leaders with success stories to tell rather than live in a state of self deception. The writer is an author and journalist. Zaid Hussain 100 at the rate yahoo.com. Twitter Hid Hussain at the rate. Published in Dawn, June 17th, 2020. Please like and subscribe to be updated by daily audio editorials. Thank you.